Lord, I pray that it might be a profitable time, a practical time, and something to benefit for everybody here. Knit us together, and Lord, help us to keep our focus upon you for Jesus' sake. Amen. Okay, you can all hear me okay? Okay, good. I've got an outline that I can spring from or follow, depending on you. What are you in need of? How can I help you work with young people? That's what I want to focus on. So you tell me what you're doing, and then let me plug in and see if I can comment on some of the things that you're doing. And you from across the street give me your first name.
Midgie.
Midgie, okay. What are you doing? Why are you here? What can we help you with?
Well, I'm here to get some information how I can help the young kids. So we're planning to have somebody to help them, like to teach them verses and to guide them in whatever needs they have. So I'm just here to see what you have for me that I can bring to them and to other leaders that are coming in.
Okay, we'll see what we can do. Anybody else? Tell me what you're doing right now. What are you doing?
Okay, so I'm gonna be one of the teachers of the Sunday group that she had mentioned. So I'm trying to figure out the best teaching content for the younger children, since most of them are not gonna be much older than like 10. So I have to figure out a way to relate the Bible to them.
Good. I'll speak to that. Okay, how about here? What are you doing here?
I teach the children's church class with Alex here. We alternate between one of us does the lesson, the other one does the songs. So we switch back and forth. Yeah, we do that. As far as what I'm looking for is, I guess, Zach the pastor about topics to cover, series to go over, that sort of thing. What direction to...
I'll give you enough subjects for a year. How's that? Okay. Okay, what are we doing? Anybody else plugged into what? What are you doing?
They alternate me on occasion depending when one or the other can't. So, and since Alex will be leaving here pretty soon.
Really?
I'm going to be plugging in, I think, a little bit more. I get something, because I'm not as experienced with the younger kids, I'm having a little bit of difficulty with, is at least at times when I teach, is there's a range between like 5 to 9, and it's hard to keep, I guess, the interest. And I don't know if it's maybe because of my vocabulary. I try to keep everything simple, but try to where, okay, I'm engaging them, and they're actually, a lot of the time it feels like, at least to me, it seems like I'm trying to get them more corralled into, okay, at least pay attention, rather than where they're actually engaged and actually trying to, get something from it.
Okay. So most of you are with preteens, not teenagers, preteens.
Yes.
We work part of the time with you for also filling up.
You do everything. Okay, I'll try to major on that.
Mostly it's kids though.
Okay, you all have a sheet of paper. Okay, I'll start in, and if you want to ask questions, ask questions. Otherwise, I'm going to move along before we get to the practicality and see what we can get accomplished. How to preach and teach to young people. What's the difference between teaching and preaching? What?
Preaching is exhorting, and teaching is instruction.
Preaching is?
Preaching is exhortation, and teaching is instruction.
Okay, that's good. I say it this way. Teaching is to give information, to inform them. So you want to inform them about the Bible. You want to teach them the Bible stories. You want to teach them the Bible verses. Preaching goes to try to make a decision. You're giving them a motivation to decide something or to believe something. And that's the difference. Some of you will be teachers, some of you will be preachers, but there's a real need of what's going on. Okay, let's go to the introduction and the real problem. Here's what we face. Now, I've been in the pastorate now for over 40-some years. We had a Christian school. We built youth programs. And through my experience, my years now, especially since I've retired, you don't retire, you just get tired. But I came across some statistics from the Southern Baptists, and they have said in the past years, 10 years, their Sunday school attendance has been dwindling, going down consistently. And not only that, but you talk to the college presidents and those that have Christian schools, they're dwindling. And they don't have the amount of students coming in anymore. The churches are not sending them to Christian schools. And all of them are, there's a drop in attendance. And the problem is that we have lost a whole generation of young people. In other words, kids graduate from high school, go off to college, and don't come back. They go into the service, and when they come back, they don't come to church. And we've lost a whole group, a generation, and we're continually not winning that generation, the next generation, and it's getting pretty bleak out there for people to just have it the way it used to be. Popular to go to church, the thing to do, to be with Christian activities in Christian schools. It's not the way. And you almost have to win them one by one or carve them out of the rocks, go after them and dig them out of the woods because they're not the same mindset that they used to be in the days, and it's getting worse. And that's just one of the characteristics of our day and age. There's apostasy setting in. The world's going to get less and less Christian and motivated to that, and more opposition. That's just the way it is. In fact, even teenagers sometimes will argue with you about the Bible, argue with you about creation, argue with you about various things that you've been teaching and preaching for years. That's just the characteristic of the day. So that's the problem. It's not as easy as it used to be, and you have to really go after it. So let's look at the characteristics of the young people. What's a characteristic? What are you finding in your kids?
They're impressionable.
They're what?
Impressionable, like anything they figure, anything that comes to them, they just like
Some, yes, depending on their home life. If they have church background or Christian parents or whatever. Anything else? What's characteristic of young people?
Well, with the young people I work with, I teach them the Bible, the Bible, the Bible, the Bible, the Bible. I teach them facts that are about the earth in the Bible that we are only finding out today to give them teeth for their faith.
Okay.
A good example is in the book of Job, chapter 26. We know today the north is empty. There's no land on the North Pole. It's water and ice. The South Pole is a continent. And today we know the earth is hung on nothing. And we even have pictures of it. In Job chapter 26, verse 7, it says, He stretches the north over the empty place and hangeth the earth upon nothing. A fact about the earth in the Bible, thousands of years before we knew it. And there's lots of those.
Okay.
And when children know that there are miraculous things in the Bible, then they know that the Bible is God's word.
Okay. Now you get that across to youngsters.
I do.
Okay.
With kids I work with.
My wife does the same thing. She has from 4 to 12. Just because it's a small church, and whoever comes, she gets them all. All right? So she doesn't use material as much as she uses the Bible.
Right.
And she'll take a Bible story, and a lot of kids don't have Bible stories. They don't know the Bible stories, so she just reads it, comments, and to different age levels, and gets them involved with it, and that's what she does. It's less money on buying all kinds of material. It's very expensive buying material today. But a Bible, just give them Bible, okay?
That's right.
Characteristics of young people, other things.
They're curious.
What?
Curious.
Curious, okay. Anything else?
They don't know what they don't know.
Matt?
Okay, I've got this. Adolescence. What does the word adolescent mean? Are you an adolescent? What does that mean? You are one. An adolescent is not a child. And an adolescent is not an adult. They're in between. Sometimes they act like children, sometimes they act like adults and ask adult questions, but they're in between. And you can't sit down and give them a lot of facts and various things. You've got to break it down, give them pieces, what they can comprehend, and they're in between, depending on their home life, their parents, the exposure they've had, the church and various things. But that's the first characteristic. The second is they lack knowledge and they lack experience. So they'll Paul parrot what their parents have said, or Paul parrot what they've heard on television, Paul parrot what they heard on a television or movies, and that they're lacking knowledge and really understanding, no experience. Third thing, they're very short on interest span. Now here's a rule of thumb for teachers in classroom. A 3-year-old has an attention span of how long?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. They're 3-year-old, 3 minutes. That means you got to change gears every 3 minutes. You got to come up with another illustration or another object lesson every 3 minutes. If they're 4 or 5, what's your attention span? 5, almost like their age. And you'll get kids coming to class and they say, I'm bored. Why? Well, you've read too much, or you've talked too much, or they went over their head, or they're interested in something else. Now, if kids are raised on television, and that's the babysitter that the parents are using, I mean, they change gears with color and noise and sound and all kinds of activity constantly to hold their attention. And the kids on the videos, there's attention of what's going on. And I hope they made it in the parking lot okay. So attention span is something that you're going to have to fight constantly, and the best way to do that is just be prepared. But you got to be able to pull things out. Okay? Now, how do you get started? What are you going to teach these kids? Because they come and they go, and you want them to stay as long as you possibly can. So here's what I say. Here's a practical plan. Think with me of what you want to see in a convert's life after 1 year. Let's say somebody comes to your Sunday school, some of your church, and they sit in your class for a whole year. What do you want to see in their life? Okay, I'm open for ideas. What do you want to see?
You're not going to get a whole lot, but if in 1 year, several things you could get is I'd like to see them reading their Bible on their own, at least some. I'd like to see them regularly attending, at least most of the church services, and I'd like to see them at least start working on some of the, some of the ministries of the church, in particular, if we can get them started in the soul winning ministry, and get them, basically, get them to the point where they can start growing on their own.
Like to see them baptized.
Yeah, that too. I meant to put that in there. I forgot that one.
Depending on the Lord, like when you drive someplace, that they will pray that the vehicle will run good and the Lord will protect them from animals, other vehicles and things, and then when they see those things, to tell Jesus thank you for them.
Okay,
A personal relationship with Jesus.
okay, you got them once, and maybe they'll get saved. You need to get them another time. So you got to make your time count with them. So I make a list of what I want to see in a convert's life after 1 year. I want them to have assurance of salvation. Some kids go to camp and they get saved every year. Have you noticed that? They need to have assurance of their salvation. Then they definitely need to grow. So growth, how? Well, there's all kinds of growth. Faithful tendencies, they're growing. Reading their Bible, they're growing. Scripture memory is a good way to grow. All kinds of things. But then you want coming back and being regular in church service, getting involved, helping out. My wife has flannel graph, okay? She says, okay, I'm going to teach a lesson. So-and-so, you're going to be next week, you're going to put the pieces up. See? So they're there next week, put the pieces up. And eventually, if they're older or whatever, okay, you're going to give the lesson, and I'm going to put the pieces up after a while. See, you're going someplace. You're accomplishing something with them. Baptism, that's the first act of obedience. You get them baptized and you get them in the church. I've got devotions. I've got being a witness, being a service, having convictions. Young kids, if they believe something, they speak up, even to their moms and dads. I learned this, and I believe this, etc. But that's where you start. It's just a practical thing. You make a list of what you want to see in a convert's life or your own kid's life after 1 year. And that gives you an outline. That gives you something to plan. That gives you something. You don't have to get all kinds of material purchased. You just go at it, and you've got Bible helps. You've got your experience in your life. You can just go and see what you can possibly do. So that's a simple plan. Okay? Now, the problem in leadership. Here's a real definite problem. We need Sunday school teachers. Who qualifies for a Sunday school teacher? Well, qualifications are not in the Bible. They didn't have Sunday school classes in the Bible. So, what's a qualification for a teacher?
They have to be able to teach.
Ah. Okay. There's some good books on that. There's the classic is The Law of Teaching. There's several revisions by different authors, but that's a fantastic book. 7 Laws of Teaching. That's if you can get a hold of that, that's good. There's one out of Dallas called it'll come to me. It'll come to me anyhow. Hendricks is the author out of Dallas. He taught it in the seminary. I might get into his method before we're done. But here's the problem. We need teachers that will be examples. If your life's not an example, you're handicapped as a teacher. We want them to see Christ in you. We want them to see faithfulness in you. We want them to see the things that you're trying to get across to them in you. So you've got to have a life, a spiritual life. And here's the problem. You cannot take and lead anybody younger any deeper than you've gone, any higher than you've climbed. You can't take them any farther than you can understand. So your level is going to produce itself in the kids. So if you're a dynamic Christian, you're a growing Christian, if you're happy in the Lord, you're serving the Lord, that's going to rub off. But if you're not, you need help. But that's the kind that really produces things in the lives of other people. And You have to spend time. It takes time to get to know these people. You can't really prepare to teach a class for a year if you can't get in the home and see what they're facing in the home. That way you can prepare them and help them with what's happening in the home. We've won teenagers of the Lord, get them to come to church, but the parents have no attitude or no interest in the church. You know, they can sleep in this morning. We're not going to get them up. They're tired. They stay up watch television until midnight. We're not going to get them up. Or they can come if they want to come. We let them choose. So you get that attitude at home, and you've got a problem getting those kids consistent. So get in those homes and know them and go after the kids. And you've got to spend a lot of time doing that. And have activities or events. Invite the kids to you. Come faithfully for a month, and we're going to have an activity. And we're going to do this or do that with you. But you've got to be able to put in the time and rub your life off into theirs or influence them. What do you remember about your high school or grade school teachers? Your grade school teachers, what do you remember about them? What did they teach you? What do you remember in a grade school teacher? What did they teach you? What did you learn in the 3rd grade? What did you learn in 7th grade? You don't remember anything. We don't remember those things. Now, we learned them, but we don't remember. You know what you remember? The teacher. She was mean. She was strict. She was this, she was that. That's what you remember, but you don't remember what she taught you. It goes all the way into college. You know? And what we need is teachers that can plug into people and get down into their hearts with something that they're motivated about. Get excited about something. That's what you want to teach. And it's a lot easier teaching something like that. Okay? Number 4 here. Prepare them ahead of time for the future. This is especially teenagers. When do teenagers start to date?
10, 11 these days.
It gets younger every year. What do they do on dates? See, what do they know about dating?
Whatever they saw on TV.
Yeah. Anything goes. Okay? And who's teaching them about dating and exposure? Somebody's got to do it. You had better jump the gun and start talking about it before they do it. Otherwise, hey, I'm busy Saturday night, or I'm busy Sunday morning, I've got a date. Or I'm going to hang out with so-and-so. Or we're going to go to the beach, or we're going to do this. See, you had better prepare them for what's going on. So you don't wait until they graduate from high school to talk about college. So you talk about that along the way many times. You need to take them on trips and go visit them and expose them to other people. Talk to them about careers. Talk to them about making a living. Talk to them about money. All these things you've got to stay ahead of the young people. Otherwise, they're not ready. They're just thrown at it. It's hard to go to college and adjust being away from home, having a roommate, a schedule, being on your own, nobody watching over you to get your studies done, to do this, do that. And you go to college and Friday night and Saturday, hey, that's a library night. You spend time in the library. Where do you learn that? After you get an F. You know, it's not the ball games. It's all, you know, the sports and all the things that are going on. You got to get disciplined. You got to stay ahead of the kids and get them ready for these things of what's going on. You got to stay ahead all the way through. So there's dating, there's love. What's the difference between love and lust? See, we tell them get married because you're in love. Hollywood tells them to get married because of lust. What's the difference? Love is giving. Lust is getting. See? I want to get what they have. I want to get that person. But love is giving. I want to help that person be their best. God is love. He gives. Lust is the opposite. Getting, taking. And there's so much of that today in the communities of what's going on. All right? How many of you have ever gone to a Gothard seminar? Nobody? Okay. I went to a Gothard seminar one time and I was surprised. Bill Gothard was a youth pastor. He was a youth pastor in the Chicago area, and he had a good youth group. And in preaching and teaching to the teenagers in his youth group, he found out that there were 7 areas of conflict in all teenagers. Areas of conflict. And he said, if you don't resolve these conflicts, these problems that all teenagers have, he said they'll go with you all your life and get worse. You've got to resolve them. And he wrote his thesis for his master's degree on these basic conflicts in teenagers' lives. What do you think those conflicts were? Conflicts in teenagers' lives. These are conflicts that are non-optional. They all have them. You can't get away from them. You got to face them. You got to settle them. You got to know what you're going to do about them. Otherwise, they're going to really mess you up in life. Here's a teenager comes along and he says, God made a mistake. He made me a boy, and I'm really a girl. That's happening all the time. In other words, I'm not what I ought to be. I'm something else. What's wrong with that? That's a non-optional problem. You're never going to be the opposite. God made you what you are, period. You better accept it. And if that's a conflict, then you've got a real problem. And if you don't resolve it, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. Okay? I'm short. You know what my problem is? I can't play basketball. I want to play basketball. I can't play basketball. I sit on the bench. Well, I can't. You know, everybody in college, they want 6'6". You know, 6'6", hey, come to college now, play on our team. But if you're not 6'6", hey, okay, go out to track or something. So I always want to be 6 inches taller. Now, I have to come to the grasp of something in my life that I'm not going to be 6'6". God made me at my height. And what He wants me to accomplish and do in His will, I don't need to be 6'6". I can do it with this frame. See? What if the person, he's not capable with his IQ to get the things that others have got? You go to college, you go to grad school, you better make B's or better. They don't want D's, they want B's or better to get in graduate school. I had a friend in high school. She had A's in high school. And she applied to college, I think it was Methodist College in Texas. They turned her down. They said, your IQ's not up. You don't have the grades and the IQ to make what we want for these people. They turned her down. They can do whatever they want. So what if you are not, you know what a bell curve is? Okay, here's your bell curve. These are IQs. You know what your IQ is? Okay. Let's put over here idiots, imbeciles. We'll put over here gifted, intelligent, genius. God has made as many of these as he has of these, in proportion. And then we come on up here, about 110, 120. That's the C average of the bell curve. And you get higher and brighter and more capable, and these people go to graduate school, and these guys are writing books on science and math and various things. And these people are going to labor jobs. They're driving trucks, and they're carpenters, and they're plumbers. And you know your IQ? It's nice to know your IQ if you're going to go into education. And you're going to have to study a lot harder if you're on this side of the curve instead of that side of the curve. Just as many people over here than over here. But all these people go into the Lord's work. These guys are writing the books. They're presidents of the schools and heads of the denominations, various things. These people are just, hey, small town, off the foreign field, backwoods places, doing God's work. Now, what does God say? God doesn't say anything about your IQ. He wants your heart. In other words, if God calls you to do something, he's given you everything you need to do what you need to do in life. But let's say someone says, oh, God's not fair. He put me over here instead of over here. Okay? You can't say that. It's a non-optional thing. God gives you what you're going to be. When does your IQ hit its this is kind of set. When does God set your IQ? You can, child, they can learn and grow, and their IQ can develop. And in school, we kind of help the IQs grow. You can grow by taking math. You can grow by taking language. You can grow by doing things like math. You can do things like chess. It kind of triggers your mind to work on a different level. Play piano. You visualize something that's different. You can help your IQ up to about what age? 16. Then it's kind of locked in. You don't get any smarter than that. You can learn more, you can develop more, but your ability is pretty well set at 16. So this is a thing that you've got to accept. You've got to accept that I am what God made me, and I am acceptable to Him, and what He wants me to do and accomplish in His perfect will. I've got all I need. And be a happy person. Okay? I know a lot of people that have gone off to college, got degrees, are flops in life. I mean, they can't stay married. They can't keep a job. They can't do this. They can't. What happened? Their heart's not right with God. That's they haven't arrived right. Okay, so he comes up with these non-optional principles. What are they? Okay, non-optional. Number one is the design. Some are tall, some are short, some are skinny, some are pudgy. The design. Some are healthy, some are not healthy. Some are athletic, some are not athletic. So God's design. He made me what I ought to be. And I have to have self-acceptance of that. And if I don't accept that, I've got a problem. If I don't work that out and accept that, I've got a problem the rest of my life. I'm not good enough, or I can't do it, or others are better than me. And you got to get that settled. Self-acceptance. You better teach that to some of your kids. The next one is authority. Authority. You know, we had all these riots on television over the police shootings, and they went into predominantly certain ethnic areas, and they riot. And some people, agitators, come in from outside and they stir people up. One of the basic problems of that culture in those communities is what? Authority. They don't want authority. They fight against authority. They rebel against authority. And they don't like the police. That's a sign of authority. Those kind of people go into the service and they have authority problems right away. Somebody with more stripes on their arm is telling them what to do. They don't want somebody telling them what to do. They go get a job and the boss keeps telling them what to do. They don't want somebody telling them what to do. See? They don't want parents telling them what to do. So this is a whole area. You've got to have somebody in authority over you. And young people need to learn it. If they don't learn that, they'll have problems the rest of their life. Don't tell me what to do. I'm my own man. I'm my own self. I'm going to make decisions for my life. Here's the thing. You'll never get away. You'll never get away from authority. There's always going to be somebody over you. The boss. The supervisor. There's always somebody over you. Are you going to submit or not? If you're going to teach, a teacher has to have authority. Listen to me. Sit down. Fold your hands. That's what they do in 5-year-olds. Fold your hands, because otherwise they got something in their hands all the time. And fold your hands and look at me. I'm teaching you authority. What's good about authority? What is that? Huh? That's an umbrella. Okay? If a child is under authority, they're under protection and care. Mom says, don't touch that stove. Don't go near the iron. Now, is she saying that just to be mean? No, she's not. She doesn't want you to touch the stove. She doesn't want you to play with the iron. Why? You put yourself under their authority and you're under protection. Now, there's all kinds of rain falling down here. Things that'll harm you. But if you get under the protection of a parent and take it willfully, you're better off. But if you rebel and say, Mom and Dad, I hate Mom and Dad, they're always telling me what to do, so they get out from under protection. Here's what a teenager does. He says, I'm going to leave home. I'm going to leave home and join the service. Okay? Or I'm just going to go away. You're getting yourself away from that protection. Well, let's go. Parents. We got parents here. How about teachers? Under the authority of a teacher, under authority of government. They're there for your good, according to the Bible. They take care of protecting you. Government's supposed to have fire departments, supposed to have police forces. In the service, Women, you put yourself under a husband. Why? He has authority over you to protect you, to provide for you, to care for you. Now you can pull yourself out from under that. Fine, but you're out from under the protection that he can offer. See? We have preachers. Some people say, well, I don't believe what you preach. I don't believe that's what the Bible says. I don't think I ought to do that. I don't have to do that. Well, there's some reason why he's telling you that. But you can pull yourself out, but you're out from under the protection. Kids need to learn these things early, because if they don't, they're in for problems the rest of their life. Who's teaching this? Where do you learn this stuff? Best place I know is church and Sunday school. If you've got a teacher that's teaching, and you teach the Bible, that's what you got. So kids have to get under the protection. If they're not under protection, then they're on their own. And then when all these problems come, kids go off on their own. I want to leave the house. I want to get a job, but you know, I don't have enough money. Mom and Dad, I need to get my car fixed, or I need to get a car, or I can't make my payment, my mortgage payment. Mom and Dad, help me out. Mom and Dad will usually do whatever they can to help you, but it's nice to honor Mom and Dad the rest of your life. God said, if you do that, I'll give you a longevity of life. You know where that is in the Bible? Okay, so these just practical things. Now, Gothard goes in to 8 of these. He's got design, authority, responsibility, suffering. Some people are born with a handicap, some are blind, and some are, you know, God made you that way for a purpose, and you don't need it to have what he wants you to do. Look at Fanny Crosby. You know? And she later in life praised the Lord for making her blind. She said, I wouldn't have been. Whoops. Just lost my board. She said, I wouldn't have been able to accomplish what I've done if I had my sight. Okay, we got design, authority, responsibility, suffering, ownership. How do you get kids? Here's 2 girls, two sisters, live in the same house, in the same bedroom, in the same closet, and they fight over their clothes. How are you going to stop it? She's wearing my clothes. She wore it to church and she got a spot on it or she ripped it. That's mine. I have a right to that. She can't have it. She can't wear it. How do you handle it?
Take clothes.
What?
Take clothes.
Take her clothes?
Correct your idea of ownership. It's God's.
Correct her idea of ownership. I tell young people, I say, listen, you argue at home, you fight, brothers and sisters, I can stop all your arguments immediately if you do one thing. Surrender your rights. Surrender your rights. What does that mean? That means I give it to the Lord. See? And if the Lord wants, he'll give me another one. But you stopped all arguments. Surrendering rights. A lot of women learn to surrender rights to their husbands. See? Husbands ought to appreciate that. You surrender your rights to the kids in the middle of the night, you know, you surrender your rights. You just do it. It's just automatic. Now, where do you learn that? You better learn it, otherwise there's problems. See? But you got to accept that. And you can get along with somebody at work if you just surrender your rights and say, that's the way he is, that's the way he's going to act, and I'm not going to let it ruin me. See? You got to accept these things. Ownership, yielding rights, freedom. The 6 is freedom. Number 7 is identification. Who do I belong to? See? Who am I? My dad used to say, when you go away from home, remember whose kids you are. Now, what did that mean? Yeah, don't embarrass us. See? Behave yourself. Have some manners. Remember, it comes back on me. See what's going on. Okay, so there's 7 areas of responsibility, and he has developed these in the Gothard seminar. And when I heard those things, and he developed them, gave illustrations, gave answers, Bible answers for everything, I was amazed. Some people really go and take him. He's got all kinds of publications, and he's passed off the scene now. He's older than I am, and he's not very active. But I think he had a contribution for us to know what's going on. So what I'm saying is, you want something to teach? You better teach the kids these things. Parents ought to teach their kids these things. And a good teacher can take these things and apply them. So you've got a whole bunch of things in Gothard's books. I got some of them you can take a look at if you want to later on. Okay, number 6, the goal in teaching. What's the goal in teaching? How do you know you're doing a good job? You can't tell in a month. Yeah. See, what grade did you teach?
I taught all grades.
Okay, let's say you're taking 1st grade. You would be doing your job if you get them ready for 2nd grade. So you can tell that 2nd grader, I had them last year, and they know all these things, hopefully. So you don't have to, you just take and build on that for the next year. And that's the goal of a teacher, is to train them, get these things across to them. But what else? For a Christian teacher now. We're talking about Christian teachers. What are we going to do?
Its lives changed to more godly behavior.
Okay. In other words,
Like Jesus.
I want to put my words again. You touch their life. I've had some teachers in seminary that have just gotten inside of me and grabbed a hold of me and said, you got to get this. You got to understand this. This is very important. And if you can touch a life and get them closer to God, get them to look up, get them to have something to live life by, and the best thing you can do with that is to teach character. Teach character. Now, who's teaching character today? We got a mess out there in society. We can't get along with people. And people don't care about anybody. You go to apartments and you say, who lives 2 doors down? They don't know. Have you ever met them? No. Ever talked to them? No. I saw them once at the mailbox, but I don't know who they are. I don't care who they are. They just isolated themselves. Turn with me, if you would, to Peter. 1 Peter. No, let's go to 2 Peter. Am I making sense so far? I want to give you something that we've learned the hard way. This is experience. We've been there. We've done that. And you solve these problems, and then you become a supervisor and give somebody else those problems, and you get somebody bigger problems, better problems. Then you become a principal, and then, oh boy. And then, okay, I'm in 2 Peter chapter 1. Okay. We say we want somebody saved. That's where we start in. And then verse 5, chapter 1, verse 5. Besides this, giving all diligence, add. When you add something, what do?
Increase.
What?
Increase.
You increase. It says, add to your faith. I'm supposed to add something to my faith? What am I supposed to add to my faith? 7 things. What are they? Add to your faith virtue. What's virtue? Moral character. That's a virtue is. And to virtue, knowledge. And to knowledge, temperance. What's temperance? Self-control. And to temperance, patience. That's patience. You come to the end of your rope, you tie a knot and hang on. See, some things we are in the middle of, we can't get out of, or we have to endure the end. You make a bad financial decision, you buy a lemon of a car, you're kind of stuck for a while. And to patience, godliness. And to godliness, brotherly kindness. And to brotherly kindness, charity, which is love. All these are character traits. If you have character, you don't care where your IQ is. It's character that's more important. I don't care if a guy's a plumber, electrician, or he's a professor in college. If he doesn't have character, he's not much of a person that you really want to be around. Character. And you teach these young people, God wants you to be a person of faith and character. So there's another whole list of things to teach. Character. They're not being taught. Where are you getting these things? You get them from Bible characters that God put in the Bible that tell you the good and the bad about them, so you can learn from them. They don't have to experience all those things, but you go through and you add these things to your faith. That's character. I had to sit down and write for a board of education the philosophy of Christian education for our school. Then they came in to evaluate our school, and principals and other educators came in and they said, okay, here's what you said you believe. This is what you said you're going to accomplish. And now we're going to evaluate you on how you have accomplished it. First grade, ready to go to second grade, third grade. You said Christian philosophy. How have you got that worked out in your curriculum? How have you got that worked out in your school? See? And then we've got the philosophy. That's where I got my philosophy as out of second Peter chapter 1. Here's faith. We're trying to get them saved. After we get them saved, we're going to try to teach them character. Not only the ABCs, not only the 1, 2, 3s, we're going to give them character. How do you do that? Chapel, Bible class, example, all kinds of ways. But we had it down in curriculum, and we knew what we were doing, why we were doing it, and what we expected the teachers to do. See, it's all important. You show me a church that has some super Sunday school teachers, and I'll show you some super kids. You got to plug into them. But you got to know what you're doing. And you can't take them any farther than what you've come. Am I wearing you out? You want to take a break? You're okay. Okay. The goal in teaching is to touch their life. Then we teach and we preach doctrine. I heard Jack Hyles. Everybody knows who Jack Hyles is. I heard Jack Hyles say one time that he only has a half a dozen subjects that he preaches on. He preaches all the time, all over the country, year after year. He said, I only have about 6 subjects that I preach on. And that's it. Wow. I thought that's something. What are those 6? And then I started pastoring, and I came down to most of my messages, I only preach on 3 things. I preach doctrine, I preach the Christian life, and I teach how to live godly, Christian character. Those 3 things. And I never get done teaching those things. Just over and over and over, and you got to keep going over and over. So then the president of my seminary came by, Dr. R.V. Clearwater, and I said, Doc, what do you think? I said, I preach on marriage, I teach on, raising kids and various things, and I preach on doctrine, and I preach on the Christian life. What do you think? He said, I'll save you some time. Preach doctrine. Just preach doctrine. Why? What?
Because it encompasses all these things.
That's true. Now, if I preach only on doctrine, I have to preach it a special way. Because I'm trying to meet the needs. Heil said this, he said, a sermon is like a tool. As I go in my toolbox, I got different kinds of tools. Well, because I got different kind of problems. So you can give me a crescent wrench and a screwdriver, and I can fix a lot of stuff. So, but sometimes you need something else. You need a file, or you need this, or you need a drill. A sermon's like a tool. And he said, if I've got a problem, I want a tool to handle that problem. So you got to teach doctrine as a tool. And this is the way I teach doctrine. I teach it simply so they can understand it. Simply so they can understand it. Children especially need simplicity. And if they don't have the simplicity, they don't get it. It's just over their heads. Missionaries are good teachers because they go to people that have never had a background, and they win them to the Lord, and then they teach them simply the Word of God. And that's what you have to learn when you do it with young people. You have to put it down there on their level, on the shelf where they can reach it. Simplicity. The best teachers I know are very simple. They don't use big words. They don't bring concepts that go over people's heads. They just make it simple and practical. And then you have to make it so practical they can understand it and apply it to their life. See, if you don't know certain things about God, you're handicapped. You've got to know what kind of God you serve, what God's like, so you can apply it. Got to make it simple. And I always teach doctrine evangelistically. And I feel if you cannot teach a doctrine evangelistically, you don't understand the doctrine enough. And I don't preach on doctrine until I understand how it can be applied to their salvation. God's tied all these things together. I can preach on the Bible, and I can bring it to salvation. I can preach on Christ and bring it to salvation. That's what Spurgeon did. So he cites his text and makes a beeline for the cross. Preach it evangelistically. Okay? Now, let me let you work. How do you preach to young people? You have a method? You have a subject? What are the subjects you teach young people? You want material where you're going. What did I say? What do you teach young people?
Oh, character. Character.
What?
The Bible. Character.
Okay, character. You can do a whole study on character. What else? Bible stories. Very good. You got to know them. What do you want in 1 year in their life? Okay, there's a simple thing. There's a list right there. You can start in right away. And then, what else? You gotta apply what I'm saying to your situation. You got a whole bunch of kids in different ages, you gotta bring teaching on God down to their level so they can grab a hold of it. That's doctrine. You teach character, example, various things. Yes? Morals. Okay. See, you're listening. I want you to listen. Now, here's the nitty gritty. Sure you don't want a break now. We're on the second hour. Nitty gritty. Here's how I teach young people. Here's how I teach young people. Okay. What do you want to teach them this week? You know what you're going to teach them this week? I'm going to show you how to do it. I can show you how to make a Sunday school lesson in a half an hour. You got a half an hour? Takes you more than a half an hour. I can do it in 15 minutes. Give you a whole Sunday school lesson in 15 minutes.